Hello everybody, welcome back to Matura Express. My name is Timna and today we're going to talk about self-introduction, especially about talking about your education. Okay, so let's jump right in. As I said, today is about self-introduction, talking about your education. So, at first we're going to look at an oral exam part 1 and look at where these tips that we're going to go through today might come in handy. Then we're going to look at some useful vocabulary for talking about education. Then we're going to look at describing your education or your educational history, your present and future basically, so your current studies and your future educational goals. So first of all, let's look at an oral exam part 1, which would in this case be about social ties. And what we are going to talk about today will be coming in handy for you in the introduction. The introduction, as always, says you will be asked some questions about your career, future plans, etc. And in this case, this is generally not something where you can just memorize a speech and then just give that speech to the examiners, but they ask you questions, whatever they think they would like to know or feel that is interesting about your career, future plans, etc. And you will have to answer that. So you can, of course, prepare some general facts about you that you think might be asked, but you really can't just write a speech and memorize that speech. So remember that. And in that part, of course, you might be asked about your education, what education you have gone through in the past, what you're doing now, and what you want to do in the future. So that's what we are going to talk about today. The task 1 here would then be the modern family. Situation, you work as a family counselor. You have been asked to hold a seminar for families on modern family life. Your task is to give a brief presentation to the audience about modern families, talk about the different types of family, how families have changed over the past decades, and reasons for these changes. And we're going to demo this task 1 and the task 2 that belongs to that to you next week, and we're going to also demo another exam about social ties next week, so if you're interested in hearing that, then tune in next week. For now, we're going to jump to looking at some useful vocabulary for talking about education. So, I've listed the German terms here first so that you can maybe have a think about what the English equivalents would be, and then we're going to look at them afterwards. So here we have Matura, Lehre, Hauptfach, Bestehen or Durchkommen, Leistungsnachweis, Schulzeugnis, Lehrplan, and then also a few different types of schools, Volksschule, Neue Mittelschule oder Hauptschule, Sonderschule und Polytechnische Schule. So, if you've thought about some of the words that, oh, you can't really see that, but okay, maybe is that better? Okay, you can't see me now. Well, I'm just gonna read it to you. Okay, so Matura is A-levels. The Lehre is apprenticeship. Hauptfach is the main subject. Bestehen oder Durchkommen is to pass. So to pass an exam, for example, to pass the A-levels. Leistungsnachweis is a certificate. Schulzeugnis is a report. And Lehrplan is a syllabus. Now, Volksschule is of course primary school. Neue Mittelschule or Hauptschule is new middle or secondary school. Sonderschule is a special needs school. And Polytechnische Schule is the pre-vocational year or polytechnical college. Some more different types of schools that we have in Austria would be die AHS, das Gymnasium, die BHS, die HAK, HTL, Tourismus- oder Landwirtschaftskolleg, Berufsschule oder Pädagogische Hochschule, which you can again have a think about what those terms mean in English. So at the bottom there's Berufsschule and Pädagogische Hochschule. So we have AHS is the secondary academic school. Gymnasium is grammar school, lower and upper. BHS is a secondary technical and vocational high school or college. HAK is a secondary commercial college. HTL is a secondary technical college. Tourismus- oder Landwirtschaftskolleg is a tourism college or agricultural college. Berufsschule means vocational school. And Pädagogische Hochschule means teacher training college. So those are some important or very good to know words that might come in handy when you're, of course, talking about your education and what you have done so far. So when describing your educational... When describing your educational history, of course, you need the past tenses because you're talking in the past. So first of all, we're going to look at or revise the past tenses that there are. First of all, there's of course the past tense simple. I say first of all a lot, but bear with me. First of all, it's the past tense simple. For example, learned. And the past tense simple is used for Gewohnheiten, abgeschlossene Handlungen in der Vergangenheit. Then there's also the past tense continuous. For example, was learning. Hier ist die Dauer oder ein bestimmter Zeitpunkt im Vordergrund. Oder auch eine längere Handlung wird durch eine kürzere unterbrochen. Also bei continuous was learning geht es immer darum, dass es um einen Vorgang geht, der gerade in der Vergangenheit gerade durchgeführt wird. Then there's past perfect tense simple. For example, had learned. Das ist also, wenn eine Handlung vor einer anderen Handlung in der Vergangenheit stattfindet und bis zu einem bestimmten Zeitpunkt in der Vergangenheit andauert. Dazu haben wir dann auch wieder die Past Perfect Tense Continuous. Zum Beispiel had been learning. Ist, wenn eine Handlung in der Vergangenheit für eine bestimmte Zeitspanne andauerte, aber abgeschlossen ist. Also ihr seht, die Continuous geht immer um eine bestimmte Zeitspanne, um eine Dauer. Then there are also the present perfect tense simple and continuous. So the simple is, for example, have learned. Das hat immer eine Verbindung zur Gegenwart und die Handlung hat aber in der Vergangenheit angefangen. And present perfect tense continuous, for example, have been learning, ist eine Verbindung eben wieder zur Gegenwart, wegen present, wegen dem have. Wieder hat die Handlung in der Vergangenheit angefangen. Es kann aber eine wiederholte Handlung sein oder der Fokus wieder auf der Dauer sein, wegen dem continuous. Alright, so if you want to describe your educational history, here's how this could possibly go. So first of all, of course, you go to primary school or special needs school. You then move on to new or lower secondary school or special needs school or grammar school. That depends, even depends on whether it's Hauptschule or Gymnasium or Sonderschule again. And then you could possibly have a pre-vocational year, so Polytechnische Schule. Then you could move on to do an apprenticeship and go to vocational school, or you could move on to secondary academic school, secondary commercial or technical college, or teacher training college, or any of that, and then maybe move on to uni, depends on really what you want to do. And you can also move on to uni after an apprenticeship if you've done the A-levels like you're doing right now. So that's how a timeline of your educational history could look like. Maybe you want to try out yourselves to draw out maybe a line and write down every different type of school that you've gone to in chronological order, so it's easier for you to remember and easy for you to describe as well if you're asked about that. Now, I've thought of some questions that the examiners might ask you regarding your educational history. So, for example, which schools did you attend? Maybe have a little think about what you could say there. So I, for example, could say, or this is just generally an example, you could say, I attended this and that school, I don't know, I attended grammar school, for example, and then moved on to do an apprenticeship or to go to university or whatever you did. Then another question could be, what were your favorite subjects in primary school? So that depends on what your favorite subjects were. There's really lots of different subjects to choose from. You could say primary school, I loved arts and crafts, or I loved maths, English, science, whatever you preferred. They could also ask you, why did you choose to attend this and that school, or you know, depends on what you told them before. You could say, I really like the syllabus or the Lehrplan of this and that school, for example, the Paulinum in Schwarz, which is where I went to after primary school, which is why I wanted to go there. I've also highlighted the verbs here for you to see about the past tenses. And the last question that could possibly be asked that I have here as an example is, how did you realize you wanted to do the A-levels, you wanted to do an apprenticeship, something along the lines of that. You could say, I have always been interested in technology, beauty, economy. Really depends on the question. So I decided to do this and that, for example. Now, if we move on to describing your current studies, we of course have to revise the present tenses. Now there are only two present tenses, the present tense simple and the present tense continuous. So this is quite an easy one to revise and also to remember. So the present tense simple is, for example, learn, which is just used for Gewohnheiten, Handlungen oder auch Tatsachen und Naturgesetze, also Dinge, die immer so sind und auch immer so sein werden. Then there's also present tense continuous. For example, I am learning, which is eine Handlung läuft gerade ab, die Fokus auf Dauer, wie immer bei continuous. Now, if we have, for example, the question, which school are you attending at the moment? You can see attending here is continuous. You could, for example, You could, for example, say, right now I'm attending courses here at the WiFi to be able to do my A-levels. Would be quite a good answer. Another question could be, which subject do you like best? Here we have, for example, well, my favorite subject is actually English. If you could be that your favorite subject is English. Or maybe, I don't know, maths or German. Or any other subject of courses that you're taking right now. And what do you like about it? Okay, what could we like about the courses? Well, for English you could say, I like to be able to talk to people all over the world and make new relations using the English language, for example, would be quite a nice answer, also quite a nice thing to hear for the examiners. Now, if we move on to our last point for today, which is describing your future educational goals. We are, of course, going to revise the future tenses. So there's 4 future tenses. First of all, you can use the present tense continuous for future contents as well. So again, this is, for example, am learning. And if you have Termine, fest vereinbarte Handlungen in der Zukunft, dann wird die Present Tense Continuous verwendet. Also nur für fixe Dinge, die wirklich quasi wie auf einem Stundenplan passieren werden. Then you have the going to future. For example, I am going to learn. Für Absichten und Pläne in der Zukunft, wo also die Anzeichen bereits erkennbar sind. Zum Beispiel, look at the cloud in the sky. I think it's going to rain. So you can see the cloud in the sky, and that means that it is probably going to rain. And that's why I use the going to future. Then you have the will future, for example, will learn. Da haben wir also, dies ist bei unbeeinflussbaren Aussagen nicht geplant oder spontan. Bei Wahrscheinlichkeit oder Unsicherheit verwendet man also die will future. Und dann gibt es natürlich noch die future continuous. For example, will be learning. Das ist zum Beispiel, wenn eine Handlung an einem bestimmten Zeitpunkt in der Zukunft stattfinden wird oder wenn man eine Vermutung über eine gerade ablaufende Handlung anstellt. So these are the 4 future tenses that you might need during your exam. And here I have only 2 example questions that the examiners might ask you. The first one is, what are your plans for future education? Quite an obvious one. You could here possibly say, well, I am taking my English exam on the so-and-so 2018, and then I'm going to start attending classes at university, for example. If you want to do that, if you want to start a business, for example, and attend some economics classes or whatever. As you can see, the next question is then, what classes are you going to take? I'm going to take classes on economy and management. That's what I thought of, because I immediately thought of opening a business on your own. And yeah, it really depends on, you can't really say or have a very fixed catalogue of questions that the examiners are going to ask you, because it really depends on your personal educational story. So where you've been, where you are, and where you're going. And depending on that, there might be lots of different questions that might come up. So really think about your personal situation there and what topics might be interesting, what topics might appeal to the examiners, or what they might want to know more about. What is something that's unusual about your educational story? What's something that you would like to tell them about a bit more? And just prepare maybe some key vocabulary that might be useful to you if you think about describing it in German. Then also look it up in English so that you're really prepared for any possible questions. And remember, of course, that if you don't understand a question or if you just didn't quite get it, then there's no harm in asking to the examiners to repeat the question or to phrase it differently. That's just a normal thing that can happen to everybody, that you don't understand something, so don't really worry about that. And yeah, that's really all we're going to talk about today. As I already said, next week we are going to show you 2 demo exams, me and my colleague Katrin, where you will then also be able to see an example of us, of an introductory talk and talking about education, educational background, future in education, and so on and so forth. So if you're interested in that, tune in next week. And until then, we hope to see you again, and bye-bye.